Hello, creators. Welcome to another Video Creators podcast. I'll say it again this week, even though it's not true. My name is Tim Schmoyer. It is so good to have you guys here today. My name is actually Lennon. It was said in the chat this morning as I was kind of looking here. We made a joke about Tim wearing his denim last week and trying to pry him into wearing a denim jacket. Somebody said, Tim, will you be wearing denim? So I just responded, under Tim's avatar, there will be denim today. So there is indeed denim. I'm wearing my denim. I didn't have it on as soon as somebody brought it up. I was like, I'm wearing it. So if you're listening to the podcast, just so you know, you can feel safe at home knowing that I have my jean jacket on. Everything, all is right with the world. So yeah, again, my name is Lennon, and I'm one of the strategists here on the Video Creators team. I am joined by the always awesome Delana Hunt, who is also a strategist on the team. And we are here today to talk about some things that we think you should focus on instead of subscriber counts. So as a creator who wants to grow your channel into something that brings joy into your life and really serves your viewers well, you obviously want subscribers. There's no question. But is subscribers the thing that you should be really focusing on? So what happens when you don't hit that number? What happens when, or like the reverse of that, you hit the number, but you're still not getting that many views? Maybe a couple of videos are carrying all the weight here. And so many times we put our focus and energy into things that we have no control over. And subscribers and views are usually two of those things. But if we're constantly measuring our success on something that is out of our control, then when we don't hit that mark, we feel like a failure in our pursuits. Or if we do hit that mark without having measurable and I'll say it this way, celebratable points along the way, then we realize that the reward isn't as great as we thought it would be. We're just now seeking the next thing. So we believe it's important to not only have goals and pursuits, but measurable ones that allow you to see your progress unfold as you go so that you can sustain the long game of building your YouTube channel into, a channel and a business that thrives and changes your life as well as the life of others. So today we got 5 measurable things that you have a lot more control over when it comes to creating growth than subscribers and views. And we'll talk about how you can make each of these things measurable so that you know that you're making progress along the way. So yeah, I'm excited. This is going to be a fun one. If you have questions about this topic, and albeit there are a number of topics kind of within this topic, so it may get a little bit gray here. That's totally cool. But Maximalist Minibus is our moderator for the day, so you can tag her inside our community here, and she will make sure that your questions get in front of us. So Delana, how are you?
Hello, I am doing wonderful.
You have a nice sweater on. It's not a denim jacket, but it's a nice sweater.
Oh, thank you. I am so excited because I live in Texas, and if anybody else here lives in Texas, fall does not ever come at the right time. It either comes like early and then it goes back to summer and then it goes to winter and you're like iced over for a short amount of time. Texas just doesn't know what seasons are. And so it either does that or it just kind of like goes from hot to cold, like really cold. And so right now we are actually having the perfect fall weather. There's like a light breeze and it's like crisp in the air, but it's not cold. So it's sweater weather all the way. And I had to take opportunity of it.
Yeah.
But I do have actually, someone called me out in the chat and they said, Delana I do have my denim. My sweater's just too big. So it's here. It is in presence. Those of you on the podcast, I'm holding it. It is here. But what I think is hilarious about this is that Tim has no idea the kind of pressure that he's under right now to get a denim jacket.
Yeah. So
he doesn't know yet.
He asked us again. So he's off with his family today. He asked if he could trust us again for another day. So yeah, he could trust us for another day, but there'll just be more pressure for the denim next week. So it's fine.
Yeah. We're not telling him, guys. So whenever he comes back this next week, unless he rewatches these on his own, whenever he comes back next week, you guys have got to be like, Tim, where's your denim? We've
Yeah,
been waiting this whole time.
that's right. Because Delaney and I will always have ours on standby just in case. Cool. Yeah. So we got somebody asked if it was that it said it's fall here in Missouri. Yeah, Sunny's place, or I think it was Sunny's place, and it is absolutely hitting fall here. It is beautiful. I got out this morning and took a good walk, and it's like the nice weather where you can put your AirPods in and like have your hoodie on and just like cuddled up
Yes.
and walking. And I just love that so much. It always feels good. This change of the season for me is my favorite time, hands down.
Yeah. The same.
Okay, let's see here. Once again, we're going to dig into the content, but if you have any questions on topic, don't forget to tag Maximalist Minibus, which is Mary. Mary has an awesome channel where she travels around the country in her little minibus, her little RV guy with a little puppy dog, and they just rock around the country, and she tells awesome stories. And she has actually a really awesome story where she recently got a pretty great opportunity. So you have to pry her about that in the chat, but a pretty great opportunity because of her channel. Super excited, Mary, to have you here and appreciate you helping out a lot. So tag Mary at Maximalist Minibus with your questions. Okay, so let's dig into it here. What are some things that when it comes to getting more subscribers, which is the thing that we can't control, what are some things that we actually can have a lot more control over? So I like to just bring it back a little bit and say, if we want to get subscribers, we really only need one thing, if we can say it that way, and that's people's attention. If we can get people's attention, then we have the opportunity to get subscribers. And there are a lot of things that come into that. When you think about getting people's attention, it has a lot to do with, attracting their attention, getting YouTube to actually surface your stuff, all these other things. And so I put together what I feel are 5 points that are really recyclable. Like, these are things that once you start to do them, it's a rinse and repeat process. And there are going to be times in your YouTube career where you have this thing humming and it's cruising along, and then one of these things are going to shift for you, and you're going to feel like you want to change. Something needs to change. You don't align with one of these things anymore. And that's why we're constantly like rinsing and repeating these things, because it gives you an opportunity to keep things fresh for you. You can be reinventing what you need to be putting out there into the world, and keeping a YouTube channel that continues to grow and thrive, and also continues to just serve you as a creator well. Because that's a big thing to me lately, is I'm seeing so many people that are just making things because they feel like that's what they have to do. And that just turns my stomach in a weird way. It's like, it's not like where we need to be coming from. Would you agree with that, Delana? Do you see that much?
Totally. Yeah. And I think that, just the more traction, like the bigger and bigger that YouTube gets, and the more people see it as like viable opportunities, whether to build their own personal brand, or to just have fun creating videos, or to build their business, anything in between. I see a lot, like more and more people come into it with that pressure, and because they feel like, if you really get underneath it all, they feel like it's something that they have to do and not necessarily something that they would have chosen to do otherwise. And so, especially if you're doing something in that, kind of starting in that way. Now, don't get me wrong. There's plenty of people that start YouTube channels and they love it. I'm sure that many of you guys here love what you're doing here on YouTube, and as do we. But there are people that come in and we tend to put this pressure on it, especially when we're not like seeing that subscriber number move and those views move the way that we want them to. Then it's all of a sudden the pressure gets even more intense, and we just start to feel like, I gotta make this happen. But it's usually that's where the mindset that you really need to be in to make that happen starts to slip. And so that's why I'm really excited about this topic.
Yeah. And that's a great segue into point number 1, which is you need to know what you want and why you want it. You really need to know what you want and why you want it. And I think that, we often talk about what is the what and we're going to get into these things too, but what's the person we're trying to reach and all those things. But ultimately, again, if this isn't scratching an itch that you have deep down inside, if you don't know what it is that you want and why you want that thing, you don't know if this is in alignment with a thing that you have to offer the world. Like I had somebody come to me in a consultation a couple weeks ago, and that was the thing that they asked me. They're like, well, what should I do? What channel should I make? And that was one of the hardest consults that I've had in a long, long time, because I had to essentially come back and say, I cannot tell you. Like, I can't in good conscience give you that information, because I feel like you're only setting yourself up for a letdown in the long term, because it's not going to be fueled by something that really means something in your own heart and your own expectation.
Yeah.
And so again, I want to try to make sure that we're giving something that's also allows us to make this measurable in some way, shape, or form. So how do we make this idea of what you want and why you want it measurable? So something I'm working on here with my own personal coaches to make this thing measurable by spelling it out in a way that's exciting for you, in a way that every time you look at it in your like darkest, most frustrating times, what's going to happen? Is it going to light you up and make you say, yes, I'm ready to push forward and keep going?
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, that is to create a business that's fueled by passion, experimentation, and authenticity, that's in service of a life of deeper joy and a new relationship with creativity and process and failure. So when I look at that, like, yeah, that may be not incredibly clear from a value proposition perspective, but that's not what we're looking at here. We talk a lot about the value proposition. This is more like, what's the value to you, so that when you look at this, you have something to fall back on. You have any thoughts on that, Delana?
I think that also, whenever it comes to knowing what you want and why you want it, a good way to figure it out is, first of all, like, what just comes naturally to you? What is the thing that your friends and your family all know you for? That's first off. Do they know you as the computer guy, the tech guy who, like, they know that they can ask any questions to? Do they know you as the yard work guy that they can ask any questions to about starting a garden or something like that? Is it because whenever we look at the things, this is something that a principle that literally changed my life. I have a funny story about this. I'll tell it really quick. So I actually went to cosmetology school a while back. I probably got a little bit of a Valley Girl accent. Some of you guys have called me out in the chat before, but that's where it came from. And not ashamed, okay? But here's the thing. Whenever I was there, I was sitting in the lunchroom. This was years ago, but I was sitting in the lunchroom, and I heard this girl behind me. She was sitting at the table across the room from me, and she was talking to one of her friends, and her friend just goes, I really want to get into working out again. I really want to do that. And she just goes, no, you don't. And she was like, what? You could tell she was really taken back. She was like, yes, I do. I want to I know that's what I need to do. I want to get back into working out. And she just goes, no, you don't. And she was like, yes, I do. And she was like, no, you don't, because if you did, then you wouldn't be saying it. You would just be doing it. And I was like, dang, first of all, that's a good friend. Second of all, Second of all, it made me reevaluate my entire life of, like, what are the things that I'm taking action on, just naturally taking action on? And how can I take that inch and run a mile? How can I make it further? Because the things that we are just naturally doing, it's either we need to get honest with ourselves and say, this is not something that I actually want to do, and change our actions, or we need to change our actions that align ourselves with the things that we actually want. So anyways, all that to say that I had to look at, one thing is look at what are you known for by yourself or from others around you, and then also compare what are the things within this space that you're known for, the space that you want to be in, what are the things that rub you the wrong way that other people are doing, and that can also help you find what you're passionate about and why you're passionate about it.
Yeah, I love that second part. That's something I think about all the time, is like when, there's a great book called Zag, can't remember which marketer wrote it, but it's the idea of, when everyone's zigging, how can you zag? How can you go the other direction?
Yeah, I love that
And
phrase.
it's so, and it's has so much to do with that for me. And it's like, and we're going to get deeper into that with one of these points, but it's that idea that when we, if we go to primal branding, which we talk about so much, when we know the things that we stand against, then our belief gets stronger, our community gets stronger, our non-believers start to show up, things start to really change. So when we look at it this way, we're actually aligning ourselves with like 3 or 4 of those primal branding points just by like measuring this thing out alone. And so if you're having some issues with some of those things of, what is your belief system? What is the thing that you stand for? This can be a great place to start, and using Delena's points of what is it that you're great at? What are you known for? And surveying your friends, which can be difficult, but totally worth it and actually really therapeutic, I think is totally worth doing. And then ask yourself, like, how are you going to feel when you get what you want?
Yeah.
Like, write that feeling down, because when you can measure something even by that feeling of like, okay, I know that this lights me up. I know this is something that gets me excited. That can be something. And I want you to hear it from this point of view. You may already be making video. You are, I'm sure, already making videos a certain way if you're listening to this, but that doesn't mean you can't still go deeper into that and start to get more clarity by asking yourself this question now. It's never too late to do that.
Absolutely.
Cool. So number 2 and number 3 kind of go together. So I'm going to just package them in the same little bundle. But what does your ideal audience want? And then to parachute off Delena's point, what does your ideal audience not want? And oftentimes it looks like, what is your competitor or what's somebody else in your niche doing that you stand against? That's probably something that your ideal person doesn't want. Right. So I do a lot with artists and creative people. And I've been sharing some stuff actually with Delena with this idea of the hustle mindset and things that just drive me up the wall when it comes to this idea of hustling and grinding and doing all that. If you think about it, when we serve people the best is not when we're worn out and burnt out and tired and doing stuff that feels gross. Like when we serve people the best is when we've learned to like push through and find the thing that is honestly and truly us and really feels authentic to who we are. And so, that has a lot to do with, I think, understanding this person that we're trying to talk to, because we know that we can then service that person the best. And so how do we figure out what our audience or ideal audience wants versus what they don't want? A simple way to do that is to find somebody that's in your target audience, if you already have an audience, and just survey them. Ask them like, hey, what do you feel like you're missing out on? What's the thing? Just ask them straight up. These story questions we use all the time. What do you want? Why can't you have what you want? What do you feel like you're missing out on if you don't get the thing that you want? Then what do you feel like is one thing that if you knew it would change everything for you in your pursuit? It's a great way to just start to get some ideas on how we can really go deeper with this person. And then when you understand that a little more, what they don't want probably has a lot to do with, my guess is, or at least the way I'm thinking of it lately, is with the approach or the way that the information may be delivered, the way that they're receiving, the way that they learn. And so that's where we have opportunities as creators to get really unique in our approach.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, let's say that you're in the beauty niche and you're wanting to teach about makeup techniques, and you decide you feel really passionate, like, oh, I'm so tired of makeup tutorials that just don't get to the point. And so that's who your target audience is going to be. Like, oh, all the beauty gurus that spend 10 minutes opening their video, I don't want to be one of those. I want the person who doesn't have time for that and who just wants to get in, get the information, and get out. And so that's going to change your entire approach to your videos. Your intros are going to be super short. The way that you edit is going to be super choppy and getting from one point to the next as quickly as possible, and maybe even very little conversation and stuff like that, because that's who who we have decided is, say that we're like the busy mom. She doesn't have time to do all this research on makeup tutorials and stuff like that and watch a 20-minute video on how to do your eyeshadow because she doesn't even have 20 minutes to do her own eyeshadow. And so it really all does come down to who we are targeting, what they want and what they don't want. Are they going to be annoyed if my intro is too long? Okay, let's cut it down. What type of experience are they looking for? Are they looking for more entertainment than information, or are they looking for information than entertainment? And catering all of that to, and if you don't have an audience yet, this is where you decide who that is going to be, and you start to craft it for that person, and then your videos will find that person. But yeah, if you have an audience right now, you can survey them and ask them why they watch your videos, and then start to go like double down in that direction. But if you don't have an audience, then you just need to choose who you're targeting.
Yeah. No, I love that. It's so true. So good. Somebody said here, what was it? Jane says, the experience is kind of rewarding in itself, just saying. I think that we all need to kind of come to that place, right? Where it's like, if we can't enjoy the experience of it, we're going to have a lot of issues because this is not a short-term game, right? This isn't an easy win, a hack-filled thing anymore. And as we see YouTube going more and more and more about it's the content, it's not the algorithm, or the algorithm promotes the person and who wants what, like that. I think that's such a valuable thing, right? So yeah, great point. So number 4, what is the best way right now to communicate the things that your ideal person wants, and to also elaborate on the things that they don't want, right? So their pain points. I often call it your opponent, right? So how do you show who the opponent is that you're actually fighting? Because I heard it said this way at Social Media Marketing World. I've said it on here before, that if you want to be an authority in your space, you have to be an ambassador of the problem as much as the solution. This is like, I say this all the time now because it was like a mind-blowing moment for me. And I think it's so important that people think about that. We often know the solutions, but we don't talk about the problem. And so if we can't understand that the problem you're presenting and the solution that you're presenting go together with me, it's going to be really hard for me to see why I should continue to watch your stuff. And it's going to be hard for you to get my attention, which is the first thing we talked about that you need in order to get subscribers. So we can make this measurable by doing things like trying different kinds of content and really making it in groups. Like if you can do a certain style of content in a group, then look at your analytics, literally group those things inside your analytics, which you can do by going into your analytics board. You can go to see more in your main analytics. And then where your name is up there at the top, I believe left-hand side, you can click there and you'll see an option to make a group. You can make a group in there and literally start to group your videos by time frame, and just make sure that that time frame is specific to whatever time frame you want to look at. And you can do a side-by-side comparison and see, does this style of content perform better than this other style? And so now we understand a little better, like, okay, this style seems to go deeper with my audience, or seems to work better with my audience. And so I think that's a good way to give that kind of its first step. Now, what we're getting to here is like, some people think niche down to a style or a certain kind of content or a specific topic. And what I'm saying is niche down to the person, not the actual topic itself. So what does this person need if they're trying to be, if they're trying to be a plumber? Well, being a great plumber has to do with the tools. It has to do with the approach, the actual skill sets. It has to do with the mindset. There's the business side of it. There's all these things that fit within that bubble. And so now you can talk about all these different things. And if your why is like, I teach plumbers to make more money so they can serve their family better, right? Well, then all of a sudden there's all this family side of things that you can talk about as well, which opens it up to different styles of content. And you've been working on a lot of that with your action plan clients, Delana, haven't you?
Yeah, and this is something huge that we do. I'm working with a client right now who he actually has been creating a certain type of content for a long time, many years. He's been in the YouTube game for a long time. But his channel started to face a plateau and then a decline. And so whenever we got in there and I was looking at all of his analytics, I was like, we got to start trying something completely new and different. And we started testing all of these different topics. And I want you guys to have realistic expectations going into this. It took us a solid maybe 2.5 months before we started to see that turnaround, because it takes time for, first of all, for you to re-engage the subscribers that have disengaged, and then from there start to reach new viewers from that. And so it takes time to really test different styles and things like that. But once you start to get those subscribers re-engaged, it will all start to snowball from there. And he's even started getting comments on his channel, his videos, like, oh my gosh, like these new subscribers that are re-engaging again. I'm sorry, not new subscribers, but these subscribers that are re-engaging again, they're saying, oh my gosh, I love the new style. And he's like getting these comments on it, and his videos are going further. They're starting to get more traction, better than they were before. And so it does take time to do these tests and find the right style. But here's the thing, what somebody said in the chat, where was it? Art with Everything said, I heard someone refer to the process as fishing for what works best. Analytics can really help you narrow down what's working within the audiences as well. Yes, 100% analytics. But what I would add to that is you don't just want to blindly fish. You want to make sure that you're choosing your bait carefully whenever we're doing that, because, and that ties back to our target audience and who they are and what they're really looking for in our content, as well as what is going on in our niche right now. Like what styles are working really well in the niche right now? What type of editing and graphics and transitions, and can we take any inspiration from that and incorporate that into our content? Or can we do something completely different, like completely opposite of that? If that's what everybody else is doing, how can we bring a different color to it? So just make sure that whenever you're fishing, you are using educated bait, essentially.
Yeah. You don't want those dumb worms. We need some smart worms up in here. No, that's great. And I love that you pointed out that it's taking time for you guys to turn the boat, right? You don't turn something that big just like this. Like it has to take time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's really important for all of us to remember here as well. I love that. Great points.
Yeah, and it's important that you test new styles and new approaches over a plethora of different topics and time frames, because if you can't make one style of video on one topic and then say that the topic just didn't hit with your audience, but it wasn't necessarily the style of video. You want to continue to test that over time, over a plethora of things. And that's the thing. If we had stopped at the beginning towards where we were going, if we had stopped only a month into it, and a month is still a long time for a lot of creators, but if we had only stopped a month into it, we wouldn't be where we are now and getting the traction that we're getting now, because we didn't give it enough time to hit the right audience.
Yeah, so good. Okay, point number 5, capturing and keeping attention. So this is the thing that we really need, right? Is people's attention. So interesting that I've made that the 5th point, that we have so many up to this to lead up to this 5th point, right? And I think we often start here, and while this is the thing we want, we really do need to think about these other things before we even start really thinking about, are we capturing and keeping people's attention? And if not, we can start to go back and rinse and repeat. So we can make this measurable by really thinking about all the things that we talk about all the time. We're not going to go into great detail on it here. And actually, if you want something that's a much deeper dive into this, we have our program 30 Days to a Better YouTube Channel, which goes through all of this step by step. And it's going to put you through everything you need to set up your channel branding, make sure that's where it needs to be, to make sure that you're understanding your target audience, who that is, make sure you have all your content set up to really start to move the needle forward. And so you can go and check that out. We have the link in the description below definitely worth checking that out. But in order to really capture and keep people's attention, we can make this measurable by looking and seeing if a few things are doing well for us. And those things are our titles and thumbnails, and our audience retention, or are just our content in general. And then really, how are we doing to get people to stay on our videos, right? So how are we measuring that? It has to do with our click-through rate. So that's going to measure our titles and thumbnails. And then how are we measuring how good the content is performing? That's our audience retention. And so what we're shooting for there is when the end screen pops up, which is 20 seconds before the video actually completes, we want around 50% or more of our audience to still be there so that we can then follow up on the next thing, which is measuring our clicks per in-screen element shown, which is, are people continuing on to the next thing? Are we pitching them to the next video in a way that's enticing, that lets them know why they need to watch it, that proves the value of this video is going to be continued on in their journey by going to the next thing? And we're assuming that sale, so to speak, by saying, now that you understand this, really important that you go watch this. So I have a video all about this thing here. Go check it out, and I'll see you over there. Cool. Any thoughts on that, Delana?
No, I think you nailed it. That's really the biggest thing is we tend to, especially if you're just getting started in YouTube, or if you've been in the YouTube game for a little while, but you're just not getting the traction that you're wanting to get yet, it's so easy to get sucked into getting hyper-focused on something like views and subscribers, views or subscribers or both. And just whenever you get super hyper-focused on that, you actually you're looking for what you really need in the wrong area. And that's why I love that Lennon brought up these points of like the click-through rate, the audience retention, because those views and those subscribers are going to come from you focusing on the click-through rate, audience retention, clicks per end screen element shown, extending the viewing session time, helping YouTube achieve its goals of keeping people on the platform for as long as possible. And then it will help you achieve your goals. So, yeah, I don't have much to add there. I think you nailed it.
Yeah. So if we go back and we look at this then in our cycle, if you're not capturing and keeping people's attention with these measurable things, then let's go back to the start. What do you want? Why do you want it? Right? Make it measurable by spelling it out in a way that's exciting for you. That if you looked at it on your darkest day, would it be exciting? Would it get you up and get you moving? Number 2 and 3, what does your ideal audience want and not want? Could be that you're not presenting that clear enough yet. You may need to get a little more detailed, go back and resurvey, go back and have more conversations about that. Number 4, what's the best way right now to communicate those ideas? Niche down to the person, not the topic. Explore different topics, explore different opportunities to deliver on that content and that information, and see what's available in trending styles and delivery of information. And then number 5, we go back to it, capturing and keeping attention. And we just keep recycling through that and seeing what happens. And I have a couple bonus ideas here. I wish I had like a pew, 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 like a bonus buzzer or something that I could use. But one thing that we think about a lot, again, rather than just subscriber numbers with our clients, we often don't really talk about that too much. Like when we're really working a lot, we're measuring everything as far as growth in percentages rather than the actual subscriber count. And the reason we look at that is because, if you're at a place where you have 20 subscribers and you grow to 100, that's a really big increase. And it's worth you looking at that and actually celebrating that as a win, because that growth is substantial. That is a substantial amount of growth. And if you look at it like your bank account and you have an interest rate of a certain amount, that starts to eventually compound on itself. So when you know that you're growing in those percentages, even if you grew at 5-6% all the time, eventually 5 or 6% of 100,000 is a lot bigger than what it was for 1 to 100. So we have to remember those things and really keep clarity in the way that we're measuring those goals and those what would it be, like our landmarks or whatever?
Milestones?
Whatever. Milestones. Thank you. And then the final point to that is, and this is something I've learned about today from my coach, was give yourself small, medium, and large rewards, as well as small, medium, and large milestones. So a small milestone might be I shot a video this week, and then celebrate that with a small win, like a small reward, right? I think we so often just want to, this one really hit me because we just want to wait and celebrate when we hit the big goal. But what happens like when we get there and we haven't celebrated anything in between? It's a letdown, right? So if you hit a big growth percentage, maybe that's your bigger goal. Have a big day. Like what's something that would really make you feel like you've earned it, and have that time for you to really celebrate that. Reward yourself on all these things, because without that celebration, without really seeing our wins, I just think we miss out on, like someone said in here, just enjoying the process, man. Because if we can't enjoy the process, like ultimately there is no destination here. We may set one, but it's going to change once we find it.
Yeah, and I think that it is also important because we, like you said, like we'll get so hyper focused on the like the one big goal, but man, we're only human. We're gonna get, what if it takes us longer than expected to get there? And how deflated does it feel when you feel like you're working towards something every day and it doesn't really feel like it's going the way that you want it to? And so what are those small wins that you can give yourself in between reaching that big goal? Okay, if we have a goal of hitting 100,000 subscribers, let's set a smaller goal of increasing our click-through rate by 1% this month. And a 1% increase on a click-through rate can be a big deal. But just those little tiny things that focus on one. I always say, like, focus on one area of your channel at a time, because otherwise everything just tends to get scattered and it all gets lost in the mix. We start to get deflated, and then we start to feel like we don't really know what we should be working on. And then it kills our creativity, and it's all just a whole snowball. So try to just pick one thing. Okay, this month I'm working on titles and thumbnails. Next month, I'm going to start working on video structure. Next month, I'm going to start getting more people into the next video through my end screens. And so on and so forth, to really give yourself those small motivating wins in between.
Cool. Okay, so we've got a few questions here. We're going to take a couple questions. So if you have any, you can tag Maximalist Minibus in the chat here, and we're going to take a couple of these to wrap up today's podcast. We got some good ones here. Okay, first one. Mahi Supports says, if I change channel topics, will it affect the channel? If I change a channel topic, or I'm guessing like a niche, we talked about this niche, how will that affect your channel? What are your thoughts on that, Delana?
It depends on, so your niche is not necessarily a topic. Your niche is more a person than a topic. I feel like Lennon kind of poked at that earlier in one of his points, but if the topic is still going to serve the person that you're targeting, and address, so Lennon also talked about, remember the, what did you say? Be, something of the problem as much as you are of the solution.
Yeah, an ambassador of the problem.
Ambassador, yeah. An ambassador of the problem as much as you are the solution. So if this is still working towards and helping them solve the same problem or a similar problem, then I don't think that you need to create a new channel or that it's going to hurt you. But if it is a totally different topic for a totally different person, then yeah, it's not going to negatively affect your channel overall, but because YouTube treats each video individually, but that video is probably going to tank if you already have a little bit of a subscriber base that's used to consuming a certain value from you.
Yeah, that is exactly what I think. So great question. Okay. Haptic Garage. Ooh, this is good. Assuming audience retention is on the list of 5. So we did talk a little bit about audience retention.
Mm-hmm.
How about some tips for analyzing the audience retention graph and its limitations?
Ooh, that's a good one.
That is a good one. I'll start with a couple ideas. One, I want to point out some commonalities that we see, because I think maybe it'll just help everybody breathe a little easier. Sometimes we need to like get in a room and be like, oh yeah, we're pretty much like everybody. And just makes us feel a little bit less like we're losing at something. But
Yeah.
that is, if you are looking at your audience retention graph and you see a big dip at the very first like few seconds, totally normal. Now we are trying to heal that little cut there for nearly all of our clients. That is natural for us to see. Although there are ways to get through that more, and that's kind of a different topic at hand. But I would be looking for that. If we see a steep decline there within the first 30 seconds, that's a good signal that you're not letting people know right away, hey, this is who this is for, and this is why this is going to be valuable to you, or you're not getting to the information fast enough. You're just not letting them. Or we had a session with Matthew Dix in our private community recently talking about story. He said, if you're not creating a sense of wonder right away for somebody, if they're not listening to what you're saying and saying, that's interesting, then you've probably missed the mark. So that's usually what that means. And then if you see a steady decline, then usually you're probably just kind of going on. It may be good information, and that's fine, but you may have too many points. It may be too dense in the information. So you might want to just trim it down. And that's where you have to start getting into testing. And then finally, the thing that I would think of the most is really at the very end, any ending language, anything where somebody says, hey, hope you really enjoyed this. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I really hope that if you see Aunt Jan, that she gives you a hug. I don't even know what people say anymore, but it's like this whole diatribe soapbox thing. And then everybody's like, all right, it's like going to the movies and all of a sudden the credits start rolling. I've thrown my popcorn away and I'm throwing my kids in the car seat because I'm like, I got to get the heck out of here before I get trampled, right? So we think about it the same way. So get rid of any ending language and just keep people there and push them to the next video. Let them know why they need to stick around. Any other little thoughts? There's a lot of nuance to retention. Any other things that you can think of that might be worth spitting out here?
Someone in the chat asked how steep is steep. I don't remember.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Somewhere in there. Steep is going to be anywhere, I would consider anywhere between like 30 to 50% or more. Usually it depends on where the creator is at whenever we get into their analytics, but usually we goal them at around, okay, let's have 80% still watching by that 30% mark, or I'm sorry, by that 30-second mark. So 80% by 30 seconds is generally a good goal to reach. But if that's like, whoa, dude, I'm at like 20% right now, I don't know how I'm ever going to get there, then you just need to compete with yourself. How can I get to 30%? Then how can I get to 40, then 50, and work your way up there? Because also every channel and every niche is a little bit different in terms of their audience. You may get to 75% and you're just like, I cannot get past 75%. And that's the top of where you are. Just in terms of how your subscriber base or your viewers tend to interact with content, because everyone's going to be a little bit different. But that's what you need to do, is you need to push yourself to try to reach your cap. Where is my cap? And that is by trying a bunch of different styles of openings. This is where you as a creative and as a creator get to be creative. You get to really turn on those creative gears and try to think outside of the box and see what other people are doing. Like whenever a video opens and you're like, ooh, this video has got my attention. What are they doing? And how can you incorporate something similar into your content? So just really paying attention and turning on those creative gears.
Good stuff. Okay. Sarah Dawn says, this is really good. This is a heated one. How do I present a problem that people don't want to hear about? So I think she's dealing with something in the disability field. So, people don't want to find out that their stuff isn't accessible to disabled people. And so that's obviously you're going to know that target market more than us, Sarah, but in terms of like, how do we present a problem that people don't want to hear about? You have any gut thoughts on that, Delana?
I'm thinking right now. Do you have any initial thoughts?
Yeah, I think that we don't just present the problem. It may be more important to present the solution in that instance, where it's like, their problem is a part of what they're having issues with, but there's still going to be something that's on the other side of that. What's the transformation that they're trying to have, right, in this situation? So if it is like that their stuff isn't accessible to disabled individuals, I'm not really sure the context of this, but if I'm thinking of, like certain areas not having accessibility for disabled veterans or something like that, then I'm going to say, or just disabled people in general, then I'm going to say, okay, what is the solution to this? What are we trying to combat? And how do we make sure that we're presenting something that has, an option here? If we're not really offering, if we're just trying to present let me think of it this way, or say it this way. If we're just trying to present this as an awareness thing, sometimes discomfort can be really important. See The Social Dilemma. Great opportunity for you to watch and understand that, like, sometimes like seeing things and putting it in that perspective in an uncomfortable way is really important to bring awareness to what needs to be said. And then if you're trying to think about, you actually have a solution, then I would present the solution to the problem as well, as kind of the bigger bait, as we said earlier, the bigger worm potentially.
Yeah, I think it's all about leading with, I think this is essentially what Lennon said. It's all about leading with what they do care about. So whenever you do kind of present that information, you need to open it up with what they care about and then lead it into, okay, this is what you need to do in order to solve that problem, or this is part of your problem. Yeah. So say that if you're speaking to a business that doesn't have products available to disabled, then I would, figure out who your target market is. Who is your target audience? Is it the people who are trying to target the disabled and they're just not doing a good job at it? And so you need to open with what those struggles and those thoughts that are coming across in their head of what they're missing. Or are you targeting somebody who is not necessarily, who just hasn't been aware of disabled or mindful of that, but maybe their mission behind their business is to be inclusive. And so like, okay, if we're building an inclusive brand, here are the things that we need to consider, and then lead that into the, what they might be missing in their brand. So hope that's helpful.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. This is a good one. Art Within Everything says, what are your guys' thoughts on taking breaks every once in a while, or taking a week off to recalibrate your content and your creative process? Worried that fans will lose interest.
Oh, I don't think that you have to worry about, okay, every creator kind of comes to a point where they need a break. Making YouTube videos is a lot of work and a lot of creative brain power goes into that. Like sometimes we just got to take a step back and we've got to reset. And that is totally fine. Now, there's a couple of angles on this. One is try to get ahead enough on your content to where you can take a step back and your audience doesn't have to feel that hit. You could take as many breaks as you want to because you're so ahead on your content, type of thing. Or sometimes if you're not able to do that, just take the time away that you need, especially if you feel like it's starting to suck your creative power. It's not serving anyone. It's not serving you. It's not serving them. It's not serving YouTube, So take a step back and give yourself the time and space that you need, and then come back whenever you're ready, because you may feel a little bit of an initial hit. Like either if the subscribers aren't currently super involved in every upload, then whenever you come back, either one of two things are going to happen. Either they're going to be less involved, or they're going to be so excited that you're back and you're uploading again, and you're going to see a little boost in views whenever you come back. It depends on how invested your audience is in you right now. But yeah, those are my initial thoughts on that. Yeah. Breaks are so important for creatives. That's how I feel very strongly about that.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, like it just comes down to your energy as a resource. And if you're losing energy, you're losing your most valuable resource when it comes to making stuff that's engaging. So do what you need to do to make sure that you're taking care of yourself and the resources that you need.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Ooh, this is a good one. Okay, I have a news channel. I can't pronounce the channel. I'm sorry. I have a news channel, and I want to know any tips for making a channel based on news about a subject. My channel is about Disney news.
Oh, cool. That sounds fun.
Yeah, that does sound fun. So, I mean, I think here for marketing a channel on news about a subject, my channel is about Disney news. First things first, like you're already doing something that I think is really strong, and that's that you've attached yourself to something that a lot of people know about. And so it really comes to me, if I'm brainstorming it from the beginning, and there's a lot of ins and outs to this without seeing it or knowing any actual information, but it comes down to me, it comes down to how what information then are you presenting? If it's just like today in Disney, 1,600 people attended the park. I mean, that's not terribly interesting, right? So you have to think of your ideal person. What are the things that are going to be really interesting to them in terms of Disney news? Is it, and we even look at news in general, and it's very, I mean, it's very clickbaity, here's who our president is potentially nominating into this place. This is what this could mean for your country. Like all these things are very like spun in a way that makes us say, oh my gosh, what's going to happen here? What's the thing that's happening? And so, thinking about things in that way, I would say look at news sources that you like, that get you to click on things, and think about how they're presenting that information, and then start to use that as inspiration as a way to create some of your content. If you're going more positive, which I think is incredible, and Disney, that sounds like, the right move there, then how do you just make that more exciting and interesting in terms of the news itself? Is it like, for me, I was Googling the show Bluey from Disney Plus. My kids love this show. And I was like, Bluey season 2. And then somebody's like, don't worry, it's coming. And I'm like, I'm going to need to keep up with these people because they're going to tell me when Bluey's coming out. So yeah, I don't know, just like thinking about it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I love the point of watching how other news channels, even outside of the Disney world, are presenting like their titles and their headlines and stuff like that. Because what if you took those headlines and then you just literally replaced some of the words with Disney language and started to craft your titles, aka headlines, that way, and just started to kind of grow your own style from that. What's the process of storytelling? It's something like something about you have to learn the process and then you have to imitate it and then you can innovate. It's like imitate and then innovate.
Yeah. So in the Garden, the Blessing says Disney has its own YouTube channel that sends out movie trailers already. So that's covered somewhat. Yeah, I mean, but here's the thing, right? It's not about the source. Sometimes people want something that is coming from somebody left of center, right? So for me, my wife and I get a lot of our news from YouTube people that we like, because we prefer that and actually trust that they're trying to dig a little deeper than a lot of the news sources that we watch. But that's just us, right? And so it's the same for anything. Like there's 1,000 people that do anything. It's really about the messenger. What's the word? There's no new messages, only new messengers. I think that's a good way to think about it here. Cool. Okay. Couple quick ones here. We'll do 2 more rapid fire ones, and then we'll wrap with a little bit of a bigger one. Let's see. What's your thoughts on using polls from Professor Slots? Well, that's a little bit off topic on this. I would say that they're fine. I see them in videos as kind of a life raft, or like a really integral part to a certain video and the purpose, the goal of that video. So if it's like a community thing and you're like, I really want to know what you guys think about this or this, I think then polls are really appropriate. Otherwise, yeah, we don't put a ton of stock or time into like strategizing around those, or at least I haven't in the past. Maybe you've done something different, Delana, or?
I'm wondering if he's speaking more to polls in videos or polls in the community tab, because community tab, they're really great, easy engagement, just great passive. They're scrolling through, they vote really quick, and it can help to boost your channel a little bit in terms of, how often people are seeing it in their feed. Okay,
cool. Yeah. Okay, we got a couple member questions here that we'll wrap up with. Ohm says, is it worth looking at your top 5 videos that are currently being viewed and to analyze them to find the audience retention and click-through rate, etc.?
Worth looking at your top 5. Yeah, I mean, I would analyze the audience retention and click-through rate. Your question's over here, so if you see me looking over here, that's why. But yeah, I would analyze them, but also keep in mind your top videos tend to be the ones that, especially if they have the highest views, they're the ones that much more people have engaged with. And so if any of the metrics are lower on those ones because so many people have engaged with them, then that's something to keep in mind, because sometimes, especially when it starts hitting like several 100,000 views or maybe even reaching into the millions of views, then those metrics can start to suffer. You start to see the click-through rate gets lower because it's getting more impressions, so it has a really broad appeal. And then the audience retention can even suffer a little bit on those. So yeah, I would gauge, see if you find any common denominators. Like maybe for you, it's, all of these have about a 50% audience retention on them, but my other videos that didn't perform as well only have a 30% audience retention on them. I need to hit that 50%. So you can find some common denominators, but more so what I would break down is different styles of videos, different styles of thumbnails and titles, and comparing all of those just all across your channel.
Yeah.
What would you say, cool. Lennon?
No, I agree. And honestly, I was looking some at some of the other chat, and so I didn't hear all of it.
Oh, that's
full
okay.
disclosure here, guys. Full disclosure. I'm trying to be real. But yeah, what I was hearing, I was like, oh yeah, this is what I would say. So that's why I checked out.
And Lennon's just like, oh yeah, I know this. Okay, I don't need to listen.
No, yeah, that's a lot of the stuff that we think of are on the same playing field. So I totally agree. Okay. Yeah. Last one here. DIY Gene says, I know I can grow if I stay on one subject, but what if my love is to cover a lot of different subjects at the cost of lower subs, but to hope for a gradual increase instead? I mean, I think that's totally fine. Like if that's where your heart is and that's what you want to do, like ain't nobody out there telling you should do something different. Like if I'm saying do your thing, what we're looking at here is what are the most practical ways to move in, as much of a steady incline as possible. Yeah. But yeah, I think if you want to cover a lot of different topics, I think that's totally fine. And what we're saying here is that you can still cover a lot of different topics as long as you're going after one specific person. And so if you're doing it that way, I think you still have the opportunity to grow substantially in that way. And DIY Gene, we've chatted before. And so, yeah, I'd say do your thing. Keep doing what feels right to you.
Yeah. And that's the thing is I think that especially once you kind of get involved in this world of YouTube strategy, it's so easy to kind of fall into the trap of, oh, well, I have to grow my channel. Everybody else is growing their channel. And it's like, you don't, what does your channel mean to you? Like Lennon said at the very beginning, what does your channel mean to you? Why are you doing it? And if it's just to have fun and you like talking about all these different topics, then, here's the thing, you either have to, and I've had to have these conversations with creators before, whether it's in regards to their style of content or whether it's in regards to the topics that they're actually producing. There's so many variables there, but I've had to sit down with them and say, hey, we either need to be okay with the results that our channel is garnering right now, or we need to be ready to make a serious change. And that can bring a lot of tension. And so if you are like, yeah, it's more important to me to be able to make what I want to make, then the other side of that is just being okay with the results that it garners. And that is not wrong. That is just, your goals. That's your lane. That's what you're doing. And that is cool. I'm totally fine. And even if the creator were to respond to me and say, yeah, it's more important to me to be able to do this, and I'm okay with the numbers then I would be like, okay, cool. Let's work together to do that the best way that we can. Because we're not here to push you one way or the other. We're here to help you achieve your goals. And so, yeah, I think it's so important to tying it all back to the beginning, right? What is important to you? Why does it matter to you?
Yeah, so true. I think that's a great way to put a pin in this hat and call this subject good. Well, this has been fun, Delana. It's been cool, just the two of us getting to hang out and
kicking Tim out.
Yeah, I mean, I might let him loose this week, and so he may be back next week.
In a cage.
At this stage, he may trust us too much, where he's just like, well, we'll just see what happens here.
Yeah. He's going to see how long he can go before we notice that he's never going to come back. That's right. That he's left the whole business to us.
That's right. Well, we appreciate you guys so much. This has been such a treat to get to hang out with you guys, and we appreciate you being patient with us. We know some of you guys have never seen us before. You're like, where the heck is Tim? Who's this weird bearded dude that's like talking too much? And so we just really appreciate it. This is a blast for us. If you want to go deeper with this, we truly hands down believe that the first step for you is 30 days to a better YouTube channel. If you haven't gone through that course yet and you're wanting to get more clarity on how you can brand your channel, how to dive into your target audience, how to get all those things sussed out so that you can start to make the content that really presents the way that you want it to present and reaches the person that you want to reach, then 30 days to a better YouTube channel is the way to do it. And you can get that by clicking on the link in the description and checking that out. And that also gives you time in our private community that we have available and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of really great stuff paired with that. I think it's just some really valuable information that Tim's put together there. And we're I hands down believe in it 1,000%. And so it's easy to talk about it. And we will plan on seeing you guys then here next week. So thanks for hanging out for another episode of the Video Creators Podcast.
Bye.